I'm Sam Little.
And I'm Cheeto.
We're here on this installment of Draven Star Paranormal Radio to talk about the Black-Eyed Kids. For those of you who don't know, the Black-Eyed Kids were first documented by a journalist named Brian Bethel back in 1998. Two children had approached him while he sat in his car outside of a movie theater. They had claimed that they left their money at home and he should give them a ride. Despite the fact that he constantly told them no, that's just not a possibility, they kept insisting to get into his car. He made a note that they had olive-colored skin, but it was when he finally realized that they were threatening him that he needed to leave that he noticed that their eyes had no whites at all. It was just completely black. He felt like they were definitely going to harm him, so he went ahead and built up the courage to drive away from them. That was the first case, but since then it's grown to be an online phenomenon. Cheeto?
As bizarre as this sounds, some of these cases have actually been considered true. Often these children approach a person as he or she going about daily activities, usually in a group, but sometimes solitary black-eyed kids have been reported as well. They're usually in early to late teens wearing baggy, nondescript clothing such as gray or dark colored hoodies and baggy pants.
Right. Basically, it's a typical look of today's skater kid.
They are often described as pale and lifeless, but other reports indicate that they might be quite eloquent.
Right. There's some people that have even gone as far as to say that the black-eyed girl that they saw was almost Victorian in the way she looked.
They often ask something simple like, wanting a glass of water, maybe needing to use the bathroom.
Or a telephone. They need to use the telephone, or
making a phone
they need
call,
a ride.
or they need a ride, or
Right.
maybe they lost something and think, that person
Yeah.
may have it. And oftentimes they ask nicely at first, but as you deny them access, they become more forceful.
Right. They tend to get a little bit more aggressive with each no that you give them.
People that have been counting these often ask themselves, what would have happened if I would have let them in? A lot of people think, they may have seen power but insistent, but they may think that, if they would have let them in, this would have changed. And they would have...
But that's the big question. What happens if you let them in? And we really don't have anything to go on for that question. It seems the end result of every case is, I said no, I shut the door, I drove away. And a lot of times there's the black-eyed kids that walked to the house, they've knocked on the door, the resident has said no, go away, and called the cops. And when the cops get there, they can't find traces of the kids anywhere in the neighborhood.
Although traveling in packs, strange children traveling in packs at night is weird, there's actually a disease that causes the black eyes that you see called aniridia, which is, for you nerds out there, Greek for without an iris.
Right. But at the same time, it's a rare disorder, and what's the chances of 2 or 3 people in the same community having that disorder?
And really, honestly, people with this disease don't travel in packs, and they don't automatically make it a habit of terrorizing people in their homes.
Right.
This seems...
Another thing that's really perplexing about the black-eyed kids is, despite the fact you've got your door open, some of these residents who report these cases are in their upper 80s, 90s. They couldn't defend themselves if they wanted to. And the kids say, may I come in? And they say no, but the kids don't barge in. They cannot enter without being invited. It's kind of reminiscent of the actual, now we're not referring to the glow-in-the-sunlight, sparkling glitter vampires. We're referring to the actual Bram Stoker-type vampires that, the philosophy is that a vampire can't enter a place without being invited first.
Yeah, but, although this goes along with some lore, there's so much different vampire lore that this also contradicts itself.
Right.
Because vampires are often seen as sleek and,
right.
very, very suave and convincing, and you feel no danger when encountering a vampire. You feel almost invited.
Well, that's another thing about the black-eyed kids is there's a mixed feeling. You have the feeling of, my life is in danger, they're going to kill me, but at the same time, the more you see them, the more you start to feel, maybe I should give in, maybe I should let them do what they want to do. But your instinct kicks in and says, no, get as far away from these kids as you can, which is really strange because they're kids, and it's an alarming thing to think about. But if you look back at wars that have been fought over the past, if you want to catch your enemy off guard, you strap a bomb to a kid because they're most likely not going to take out a kid, And with that being said, that's another theory, is that there's a demonic presence that's using these kids to create a false image of innocence. And, you lose the fear because it's a child. But if it's a demonic presence, one would also think maybe it could just come right on in.
Then again, if this is a weak demonic presence and possibly the person that they are trying to invade is a very, very devout, say, Christian or any other religion, they might have to be invited in, just like when one is possessed, they invite a demonic presence inside. But I find this kind of out there because, you know, if they invade many, many people, there's a very, very low chance that every single one of them is going to be a very devout Christian.
Right, exactly. And another theory that seems to be really popular on the internet, and it's the one that we're most commonly hearing anymore, is that these entities are actually the result of alien-human relationships. Which really, if you look at the picture, you've got the pale olive skin and the really big black eyes, which is almost a direct description of the classic quote-unquote Roswell Gray alien, which is the most common form of alien we see today. Even the little green toy aliens that are so popular are actually derived from the appearance of the Roswell Gray.
And honestly, I mean, most cases of people being abducted, it has been, you know, there have been men and women, but who's to say that, you know, for the men, they might just be studying, you know, how we work and all that. And with the women, they may be trying to create a hybrid race to...
I think I see where you're going with that one, Cheeto. And another theory, which is kind of, not to go back to the biblical theories, but some people actually believe these aren't sent by demons, but these are actually the offspring of human-demon relationships, which has been a thought that's been kind of going around a little less here lately than it was in the very beginning of these cases being reported, but it still seems to have a little bit of force behind it.
Which there's only one thing that I can think of that would contradict this theory, and that would be the reference to the Nephilim, which were previous encounters with fallen angels and humans, and these most often turned out to be giant
Right, they were very large, much larger than a child. And another thing that I've seemed to encounter a whole lot is there's a 50-50 split on the description. 50% of people who see these black-eyed kids say they're dressed like your typical modern skater kid, you know, the emo kids. And then the other 50% say they're wearing clothes that aren't accurate to the era. There was a case back, I believe it was 2001, 2002, where the man reported that the children were dressed in clothes that were fitting of the early mid-70s.
And to go back to where you were talking about how this could have been a trend, you know, with people dressing like this, but honestly, for most people's incomes, the black contact lenses are kind of out of most people's price range, because full black covering contact lenses are run you between $230 and $250, and that's just out of most median income households' price range.
Exactly, and even the fitting process for something like that it's an expensive, tedious process, and most kids aren't. Usually you've got adults who are in the film industry who can't wear a contact like that for longer than 5-10 minutes. So there's no way these kids are walking around at nighttime with tinted lenses and not suffering some ill effect from it.
And honestly, I think it's kind of out there that there's a group of children in the U.S. with black eyes or contact lenses that are traveling around victimizing people when they're led into their homes, but by some odd pact refuse to force their ways in. I mean, that's just, it doesn't make any sense.
I agree. I think with the new emo trends that's raising up everywhere now, which is just a horrid thing, I mean, one of the most ridiculous trends of all time. But I think that trend has really made an upbringing. This urban legend is coming back, and it's come back in full force. It's kind of like when the school shootings started happening, the urban legend of the hook man at Lover's Lane started coming back in full force. I think that these trends that we see out in society are kind of the fuel for an urban legend to just keep going and going and going. And as time progresses, the urban legend adapts to that era.
And with things such as, you know, the new high-speed email, and you got MySpace and Facebook where you can send massive chain letters to all your friends, fueling an urban legend can be done by a single person.
Right. That was Dravenstar Paranormal Radio's look at the black-eyed children. We would love to hear what you have to say about it and what theories you have, so please hit us back with a video response. I'm Sam Little.
And I'm Cheeto.
And this is Dravenstar Paranormal Research Team.